Hi, my name's Dave Fitzpatrick. I'm a Senior Educational Consultant for RM Education. I'm a Google Certified Trainer and I was in the past also a Science and Maths teacher. In this short video we're going to have a look at Google Meet breakout rooms, which basically enable you to take your whole class and break it into smaller groups so they can work on projects independently rather than working as a whole class. It's worth noting before we start that breakout rooms are only available to G Suite Enterprise users. So the free version of G Suite does not come with breakout rooms. As well as breakout rooms, Google Enterprise also gives you additional functionality in Meet to conduct polls and to do a Q&A with the students in your class. So why would we use breakout rooms? Well, obviously in a traditional lesson where you perhaps got 30 students in your class, many of those students are going to be reluctant to participate, maybe a little bit shy, a bit apprehensive, and won't want to talk up in front of the whole group. So you might want to use breakout rooms where you can take this whole class and move it into smaller meets with the aim of enhancing student engagement, perhaps supporting your differentiation. You could have different rooms for different students of different abilities, or perhaps you could engineer a genuinely mixed ability group. And this hopefully will enhance learning and collaboration and make sure all of your students are actively participating. There are obviously things to consider when you're moving students out of your main Google Meet into these breakout spaces. Primarily, you need to think about classroom management and behaviour. I recommend that you set clear rules and expectations to the students in the breakout rooms. This could be to make sure they unmute their microphones, to actively participate within the group, to be courteous and respectful to everybody else within that group. I also suggest you set clear outcomes, clear expectations of what you want each breakout room to achieve in the time that you give them. And I suggest that you perhaps ask the students in each breakout room to collaborate on their own Google Doc or Google Slide, so there's a tangible output from that meeting. And finally, to be brave. Even in a physical classroom, when you break out into groups, you don't know everything that's being said. You can't be in every place at the same time. And this applies exactly the same in a virtual context. I think it would be a real shame not to use this additional functionality because you're concerned about what's going on in every single meeting room at all times. And then of course you could go into a particular breakout room where you're perhaps concerned about what's going on or that students aren't on task, and you could have a TA in your classroom doing the same. So now let's go and have a look at how we create our breakout rooms. So here I am in a Google Classroom and I'm going to generate a Meet link from here. Now, of course, there's other ways you could create the Meet link via your calendar or just going straight to Google Meet, but we're going to do it using a Google Classroom. So here's my Google Classroom. Let's generate the Meet link and click on to save. And then as the teacher, I'm now going to click onto that Meet link and I'm going to click on to join now. So I'm now going to get the other students in my class to join this meeting. So here I am in my Google Meet and I can see students number 3, 4, 5 and 6 have all joined this meet. So at the moment I'm talking to all of these students. They could be talking to me. I could be sharing my screen. But let's see how we create the breakout room. For Google Enterprise customers, you will see now this new icon on the top right of your Google Meet. I'm going to click onto the icon and you can see now I've got breakout rooms, polls and my Q&A. So obviously today we're focused on breakout rooms, so I'm going to click onto this room. It now gives me the option to set up my breakout rooms, which I'm going to click onto. I can say how many rooms. We're going to have 2 rooms, but obviously I could have as many as I like. I'm going to set a timer and I'm going to say I'm going to end each breakout room in 10 minutes. And here you can see I've got the option to shuffle or clear. But if you look down here, you can see breakout room 1 has automatically got students 3 and 5, and breakout room 2 has got students 4 and 6. And if we see here, it's named this breakout room breakout 1 and this breakout room breakout 2. Now you could of course change this if you wanted to. If we clicked onto clear now, all of my students in my main room come here, and now I could manually say I want student 3 and student 4 to go here, and student 5 and student 6 to go here. So again, as I was saying before, this is a way you could engineer your differentiation within your lesson to perhaps have more able breakout rooms and less able, or again generating your genuine mixed ability groups. And now I'm going to click onto Open Rooms. If you look here on my screen, it says Breakout Rooms are ending in 10 minutes, and now that's clearly counting down. I'm in the main room still, but I can, if I want to, join Group 1 or join Group 2. If I join Group 1, I'm coming into this room. And if I click onto Leave, I go back to the main Google Meet. If I now look at student 3, you can see he's been prompted to say, you've been invited to join Group 1. You can return to the main call anytime. So this student is going to join the room. If I scroll across to student 4, he's being told the same. And now you can see in this room, you have student 3 and student 4. But at any time, the students can choose to return to the main room, the main call. If I go across to student number 5, I can click on to join, and if I scroll across to student number 6, I can join. So now all of my students are in the right rooms, in the right breakout rooms. They can now do their work on a Google document, talk to each other, engage with the learning, and you can see there's a countdown on the top telling me when those rooms are going to end. When I go back to the teacher, I can see that my students now are in their rooms. I can, as I said before, join those rooms to see what they're saying. And if I want to, I can close the rooms at any time. And it will say everyone will be asked to return to the main call in 30 seconds. So if I click here on to close all rooms, it says here now breakout room is ending in 25 seconds. And if we go and look at a student's page now, you can see here student 3 is being told his breakout room is about to end, as it is for all of the different students. And now you can see each student is being prompted to return back to the main call. And there we go. All the students have come back to my room for me. And before we end today's lessons, let's look at some of the other functionality within the enterprise version of Google Meet, where we could perhaps ask some questions, do a plenary, or perhaps use it for the students to ask their teacher some questions. So again, we click on the icon here called the activities. Let me go to the poll, and I'm going to start a poll. Here I can add a question with the options. So once I've asked my question and given the options, I could click on to launch. And now you can see that the poll has gone out to all the students in my class, and these gauges will tell me how each student in my class has voted. I have the option to show everybody the results. So if we go and look at another student screen, so here we are at student 3, I click on the activities button, I click onto polls, and I understood that very well. And I'm going to click on to vote. Now let me go through to another student screen, and this student is going to say it was okay. So now if I return to the teacher screen, I can see this feedback coming into me live. And there we go, with one student saying very well, one student quite well, and one student okay. And finally, before we finish, I'm going to see if there's any questions from my students. And before I finish, I want the students to be able to ask me some questions. So again, as the teacher, you go to the activities button, you go to Q&A, and you turn on the Q&A. If I now go to a student screen, the student clicks again onto the activities button, goes to Q&A, and now the student has the ability here to ask a question. So the student types in their questions and clicks on to post. If I go to another student screen, you can see now that this student could ask another question, or actually they could like a question that's already been asked, so the teacher knows if lots of students have the same question. So this student here could click on a thumbs up to say they like that question. So now if I go back to the teacher page, we can see what this looks like. And here I am back as the teacher, going to click on the activities button. I'm going to go to Q&A, and I can see the question that's been asked by one of my students, and I can see that it's been liked by another student. I can then choose to hide that question so the students don't see it. I can choose to say that question has been answered, or I could remove the question. So let's assume we've answered that question. I click on the tick, and now I'm going to finish my lesson and leave the meet. Thank you for listening, and remember you can always go to rm.com to get other help and support with using G Suite within your school.